Hi there, welcome to In Your Corner. John Scholes, Sivan, Tumarkin, James Fireman here, back once again. 1-855-821-5900 and help at inyourcorner.ca is the email address. Lots to get through today, guys. We'll get to some phone calls from our radio shows as well. 3 ways to deal with an aggressive or bullying disability adjuster. That is always fun to deal with. People seem to turtle, but you guys are going to clear that up very shortly. But first, James, we're going to start with you. What's going on, pal?
Well, one of the things we like to do on the show is to try and bring some information to our viewers and make sure they're educated about the long-term disability process. There's a lot of misinformation there. One of the things we consistently hear from people who have issues with their insurance company is that they're hesitant to start a legal claim to challenge a denial or a termination of their benefits because they're afraid that if down the road they get better and they want to go back to work, they won't be able to. So I want to make very clear at the outset that is absolutely not the case. If you start a long-term disability claim and your health improves to the point where you're able to go back to work, you absolutely can and should go back to work. That is absolutely the case. As long as your doctors are telling you that you are medically fit to return to work, you should do it. You're going to be much better off both medically and financially if you do that. We want to know if there's something that changes and you go back to work. But if we've started a claim and you're able to do that and you're successful in returning to work, that's great. And in fact, it usually means that the claim that we've started is going to become quite a bit easier to resolve, because now we're not talking about what your claim might be worth for years into the future. We're just talking about the months that you were off work and ought to have been paid benefits. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. If you start a claim and your health improves, yes, you can go back.
Because you have a duty to mitigate anyway. That's in the policy as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. What do you got going for the week that was, Sivan?
John, I want to tell you about a story. This is a very sad story. This is about a lady who contacted me about her husband. And her husband is in his late 40s, and he's former military. And he suffered a traumatic event during his time in the military, and he developed severe depression and PTSD. And so he applies for long-term disability, and he gets accepted. The insurance company agrees. He's totally disabled from doing his job. And then at the 1-year mark, approximately, they send him to a psychologist of their choice for an evaluation. And that psychologist comes back and says, he's disabled from working. And then what do, John? They send him to a second psychologist. And that second psychologist comes back and says, well, he's not as disabled or sufficiently disabled. We believe he can go back to work.
That's the one they were waiting for.
Yes. And the insurance adjuster then cuts off the claim on the basis of the second assessment. And that, it just, when I learned about that and when I saw the letters and when she told me the details of the case, it infuriates me. I mean, forget about the fact that this gentleman is former military, okay? It's a soldier who's defended our country. But for the insurance company to act this way, to doctor shop, which they have been known to do, it's the epitome of bad faith. And so I assured her, I told her, listen, we're going to get involved right now. We are not going to only force them to the table to pay your husband what he's owed, but we're going to go after a lot more than that, because that insurance company, that adjuster, they need to be punished. Now, not in every instance you have these kind of egregious circumstances. Not in every instance the insurance company is doing everything wrong. In a situation like this, I mean, this highlights really what they're capable of doing. But in many, many instances, John, we get called or emailed by individuals, by family members, by concerned friends who tell us a story, who tell us about the person that they care for who's been cut off or denied long-term disability, and we can help them. The worst thing I think that a person can do in that situation is simply walk away, is turtle up, say, that's it, I'm not dealing with this, and then leave the insurance company holding all this money that is owed to them. And I want to highlight and underline the word owed. That money is owed to these individuals. There is a way to force the insurance company to come to the table and pay what these individuals are owed. It's not through an appeal process. It's not by begging them for mercy. It's by exerting real pressure, legal pressure on them, and that's what we do with the individuals that we help every day.
Especially with mental health disabilities. I mean, that type of treatment really exacerbates their condition, right?
It does. It does. I mean, we see this all the time. And, one of the things that I think people tell us quite frequently is the relief that they have, because once we get involved, we are now taking over the communications with the insurance company. So no more calls or emails or letters from the adjuster to the individual and their family. No, none of that. Everything stops. You can now focus on getting better, on following your doctor's recommendations. Let us deal with the insurance company. Let us go after them as opposed to them going after you.
1-855-821-5900. Help at inyourcorner.ca is the email. We'll get to some emails in just a bit. If you have caught Employment Hour in 30, your pal, your partner Lior, we have that show here as well. On weekends, talk about employment law. There is tons of crossover, I would say, safe to say, weekly, if not daily, between disability insurance and what you do and the employment world. So we get a lot of phone calls on the Employment Hour in 30, and a lot of them are directed towards you. So we play them back here, and I know you guys want to comment on them. James, first one for the day is right now.
I'm in a bit of a dilemma. I've been denied long-term disability twice. They're saying that I don't have enough medical documentation. I fainted at work and I have a concussion and I'm having trouble getting over it. So right now I'm not getting any pay at all. I did try going back to work for 3 months modified part-time, but I found I couldn't do it. I'm waiting back to hear from them because I did send in more information and I haven't heard back from them. But I've also been offered a buyout package at work, and I have to have the application in by tomorrow. So I was just wondering if you felt that possibly I did have a claim to pursue, or if I don't have any chance at all.
Insurance problem and employer problem.
Yeah, no, that's pretty common. We see that all the time. So to directly answer this caller's question, you certainly do have a claim. You're dealing with a concussion, and oftentimes we see that comes with cognitive issues down the road.
Brain injury.
Sure. Difficulty concentrating, difficulty with your memory, often fatigue. I'm not even going to pretend to be a doctor, but we see these symptoms time and time again from people who suffer from serious concussions, brain injuries. And so if that is what this lady's dealing with, and it certainly seems that way, then there's absolutely a claim there. And so the first piece of advice is you cannot go out and accept a buyout from your employer in those circumstances. Because if you do, all you're doing is you're essentially giving your insurance company credit. Because if you accept severance pay, that is a credit towards whatever your disability insurer is going to have to pay you down the road. And they're going to have to pay you down the road. But if you've gotten severance, they're covered for that period. If you get $20,000 or whatever it is in severance, that first $20,000 your insurance company doesn't have to pay. On the other hand, if you deal with the disability claim first and then deal with the employer afterwards, you get the benefit of both. So absolutely, I would not accept the buyout in those circumstances. Typically, the way that I would deal with it, where an employer is being a little bit aggressive about getting resolution on the employment situation for somebody who has been denied their disability insurance. Once we get involved, write a letter to the employer saying, I understand that you are aware that my client was denied or had her benefits terminated. Please be aware that her doctors have told her that she cannot return to work. She's medically not able to do so. She values her job and would like to return when she's able to. But in the meantime, we are challenging that decision. I trust this will satisfy you in the meantime, and we can turn our minds to the employment issues down the road. And in almost all cases, not all, but in almost all cases, the employer will say, okay, all right, deal with that first and we'll deal with it afterwards. If not, well, then you've contacted the right firm. Because we have many very good employment lawyers who we will immediately put in to deal with your employer in those circumstances.
We'll take a short break. We'll get to the 3 ways to deal with an aggressive or bullying disability adjuster. That is on the way. You want to reach out in the meantime. 1-855-821-5900. Help at inyourcorner.ca. This is In Your Corner. Stick around. We'll be right back. You were being harassed, and when you said something about it, you're the one who lost your job. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Insurance companies deny long-term disability claims all the time. They give lots of excuses. Don't give up. I've seen it all. They've ignored your doctors, they've ignored you. You're angry and you're frustrated. But there's hope. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to inyourcorner.ca. You thought you had a secure job. You didn't see it coming. Now what do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca. And welcome back to In Your Corner. 1-855-821-5900. Help at inyourcorner.ca is the email address. We'll get to that a little later on. But as mentioned just before we took a break, guys, want to get to this important stuff. 3 ways to deal with an aggressive or bullying disability adjuster, because it does happen. It's not all, sunshine and roses. First one, I'll give you this one right off the top. Sivan, I think you're going to start. Ask for the manager and request a different case manager for your claim.
100%. If you are dealing with an adjuster that is making your life difficult, ask for someone else. And that's not, it's not just in the context of insurance, it's in any context, right? If you've rented a car and you're having difficulty with somebody that you're dealing with, you're going to ask for the manager. It's the same thing here. You have to make sure that you look out for yourself. Now, not every adjuster you're going to come across is going to be aggressive and bullying. In fact, we've talked on this show what happens in a situation where you have a very nice adjuster, somebody who wants to cozy up. Exactly. Don't say too much. Exactly. But you do have situations, and I deal with this day in and day out with individuals contacting me who can't sleep, who are terrified, mortified, who are petrified at adjusters who are making their life that much harder, because they're telling them you have to do this and you have to do that, and your doctor is telling you nonsense. And these individuals, all they're trying to do is get better. So if you're engaging with someone who is like that, who is making your situation worse, ask for someone else. Ask to speak with a manager. Ask for someone else. And you know what? Chances are they're going to give you someone else. But if they don't, it's documented, or it should be documented, that you've requested someone, so that if down the road it comes to light that they've cut you off, they've denied your claim, and it's because of issues with compliance or any issues that arise from that relationship with the insurance company, there is somewhere in the record that you've actually asked to deal with someone else and they said no.
It prevents them from coming back to you and saying, well, if this was such a problem, if our adjuster was such a bully, how come you didn't complain about it?
Yeah.
So you have to at least do that as a first step.
Right. We'll get to our second one, guys. 3 ways to deal with an aggressive or bullying disability adjuster. James, this one's for you, and that last comment kind of dovetails into it. Confirm your request in writing. That's pretty much a rule for life. As well, all your correspondence with the insurer as well, right?
Yeah, this is a common theme on this show, on a radio show. We talk about it every week. When you're dealing with your insurance company, when you're dealing with the adjusters, it is critical that every time you have communication, you put it in writing. So if you can, best case scenario is all your communication's done by email. Now, oftentimes adjusters won't do that. They'll insist on calling you. If that's the case, fine. You tell them to wait before you start talking. You get a pad of paper and a pen, and you write down everything that they are saying. And it's fine if you tell them you're doing it. No problem at all. Because as soon as a conversation is done, you're going to take whatever you've written down and you're going to write an email to that adjuster just confirming the facts of the conversation.
Nice.
You don't have to embellish. You don't have to use adjectives. All you are doing is saying, you said this, I said this. You said this, I said this. This is the positions that we have both taken. So down the road, nobody can dispute that this is in fact what happened. If they have a dispute with it, they're going to have to identify that right away. And if they don't, nobody's going to believe that they really think that something else happened. They had an opportunity to say it was otherwise and they didn't take it, so they're stuck with it. And in this situation where you're dealing with an aggressive adjuster, you want to make sure that you've documented that request. You want to make sure that there's no way down the road the insurance company can say, well, you never asked us. No, I did. Here it is in writing. This is my email of October 30th saying this adjuster is being aggressive and bullying, and I would like to have another adjuster.
A year down the road, that could be really troublesome if you haven't done that, right? It can be just more of a pain.
Absolutely, especially if there's things that have happened as a result of that. It's very difficult down the road if you don't have documented that you've made this request to say that you've had all of these issues because of the adjuster, especially if you're dealing with a mental health claim and this is aggravating your condition. If you're not documenting that as you go along, it's very difficult to do after the fact. So you want to make sure that you document everything.
The other thing to keep in mind is that chances are that the adjuster is documenting what is happening. When they call you, they make notes. And we know that because when we start legal claims, they have to give us their file. And so we can go through their notes. And you don't want a situation where you have a series of conversations that have led to some kind of a result with nothing documented on your end, and then you have them
Reams of notes
documenting.
by them,
Exactly.
yeah.
And the thing is, they can be mischaracterizing certain things you said, intentionally or unintentionally. So you want to make sure that the way you remember things is crystallized in real time, because that's going to support your claim down the road if and when we need to get involved.
We're talking about 3 solid ways to deal with an aggressive or bullying adjuster. Number 3 is this: tell your doctors how the adjuster's aggressive or bullying behavior is impacting you, and make sure they record it in their notes as well, right?
So this is very important, I think, for 2 reasons. Number 1, again, if the adjuster is making your life difficult and it's hindering your progress or making you worse, from a medical standpoint, I think your doctors need to be aware of this, because clearly this is something that is triggering something bad, or it's triggering a regression. They need to understand so they can advise you on how to deal with it. But the second reason why it's important is because, again, this is real-time documentation. If you've taken the time and the care to tell your doctors about what is happening with this adjuster and how you're feeling and how it's impacting you, down the road, if there is a legal process that's initiated, we look back at those records and we see, you know what, that what this person is probably, what this person is saying is probably true, because we can see a year ago that they've complained to their psychologist or psychiatrist or family doctor that this adjuster was saying X, Y, or Z. It supports the claim, the individual's claim. And I think it's absolutely critical in showing or creating holes in the insurance company's case when they come back down the road and say you are being non-compliant or you're not doing this or that. Well, here you go. I've actually, we can actually show records from the doctors where it's recorded that the relationship between you and the adjuster was souring, and it had a negative impact on you. So I think it's critical to make sure that your doctors are informed of that relationship and how it's affecting you.
Email address is help@inyourcorner.ca. We'll get to the first one for this show. Anyway, Jennifer writes in, says, my LTD claim was denied. My insurance adjuster said that my disability is not severe enough and I didn't try to go back to work. I've developed a rare skin condition and light sensitivity that prevents me from going outside. Even both my neurologist and dermatologist say that I can't work, but that's still not good enough. I don't know what to do.
The first issue, the primary issue that we look at anytime someone contacts us with a dispute with their long-term disability insurer is, what do your doctors say? Are your doctors supporting that you're not able to return to work? In this case, we're talking about someone who's got 2 doctors who are supporting Jennifer's inability to return to work in this circumstance. So absolutely, you know, there is a basis to fight this denial. You got 2 treating doctors that say yes, it's a strong claim. Really, what you have to do is level the playing field. When you start out, or when you're denied by your insurance company, they're holding all the cards and they're saying, okay, you can appeal. And this is something we talk about all the time, and a lot of people do that. But keep in mind, when you submit to the appeal process, all you're doing is you're saying to the insurance company, I'm going to continue to play in your domain where you have all the power. Don't do that. You start a legal claim and it balances everything out. They no longer have complete control to say we're doing this or we're doing that, because if they're not being reasonable, the end game puts them in court before a judge who's not going to look too kindly on making arbitrary decisions that are not permitted under the policy.
Wow.
You know, John, James mentioned something, and I just want to highlight that. This power imbalance, it's not really a power imbalance. I mean, it is a power imbalance because you have an insurance company, this billion-dollar entity, and you have an individual who is probably at one of their worst times in their life. But it's a perceived power imbalance because people believe that they have no power. And the way that Jennifer ends her email, she says, I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And really what they're trying to do, the insurance companies, is they're trying to force you to conclude that you have no options, that your only options is to walk away. That is the exact opposite of what your option actually is. Your primary option is to force them to comply with the terms of the policy. Remember, your relationship with the insurance company is contractual. This is legal speak to say that there is a contract, and the contract creates obligations on you and the insurance company. And if the insurance company doesn't comply with their obligations under the contract, your option is to force them to comply legally. And it doesn't matter how much money they have, and it doesn't matter how many lawyers they have. And incidentally, both James and I, in our past lives, Used to work for insurance companies, so we were on the receiving end. Insurance companies hate it when people start legal claims because that's when you've called their bluff. And once you call their bluff, guess what? They now come to the table to try and negotiate a resolution. Why? Because as soon as we get involved, as soon as they now have to have a defense lawyer dealing with the case, they are now bleeding money on your claim. They would much rather you concluding that you have no case and will simply walk away from all this money that they owe you. That's the name of the game for them. It's making you think that you have no power. So again, going back, this power imbalance is not really a power imbalance. It's only a power imbalance so long as you believe you have no options. Very, very important.
We'll take a short break, guys. Coming up, can your insurance company use your social media against you? We'll tell you if they can or they can't. 1-855-821-5900. Help at inyourcorner.ca. This is In Your Corner continues. Stick around.
You lost your job. They only gave you 2 weeks of severance per year worked. But where can you find out what you're really owed?
I'm going to severancepaycalculator.com.
Find out how much you're owed right now. Severancepaycalculator.com.
You've been denied long-term disability. You think you're powerless, but you have a lot more power than you think. I'll tell you a secret. It's a numbers game for the insurance company. They're betting on you walking away from money that they owe you. Don't make that mistake. We resolve disability claims all the time. We force insurers to pay what they owe. We're in your corner.
Call Sivan and his team, 1-855-821-5900, or go to inyourcorner.ca. You lost your job. They said they had a good reason, but you think you've been wrongfully dismissed. Now what are you going to do?
I'm going to employmentlawyer.ca.
Always check with the employment lawyer first at employmentlawyer.ca.
Hey, welcome back to In Your Corner. It's inyourcorner.ca and 1-855-821-5900 to reach out by phone. There's also another way, mydisabilityquestions.com. Guys, you go there, you ask your question, and it will be answered rather quickly by James or Sivan, a member of the team. So check it out. We'll get to one from mydisabilityquestions.com. Thought this one was interesting. And it goes as follows. What happens if a long-term disability insurance company accesses a person's social media account like Facebook and sees that the person was, I don't know, on a vacation and has photos of a person enjoying a party? Can they cut you off because of this?
It's a great question. And so the first answer is they can cut you off. They can cut you off for any reason they like. Whether or not that's justified under the insurance policy is a whole other question. There are some circumstances where it would be justified.
Okay.
If you are saying that you have a physical disability that prevents you from getting out of bed, let alone going to work, and they have pictures of you, out and about,
snowboarding,
doing whatever physical activity you might think of, then yes, they would be justified in cutting you off in those circumstances. I don't think anybody would really dispute that. It gets much more nuanced when we're talking about mental health issues, anxiety and depression. Certainly, in most circumstances that I've seen, doctors will typically recommend to people who are suffering from depression that they go out and try to enjoy their lives. The fact that you've done so on this particular occasion for a moment in time does not mean that you are no longer disabled and that you can go back to work. Having said that, the optics of it aren't great. I have to acknowledge that. If there are, photographs of my client doing things that show what would otherwise not be expected under their disability, that doesn't help the case out. So what do you do about it? We had a private investigator come on our show who does surveillance for insurance companies on our radio show a couple weeks ago. He had suggested that it would be a good idea that people just go dark, as he put it, for social media. I'm not so optimistic that all of my clients would follow that advice. I would hope so, but what I would at least ask people to do is be reasonable. Use your common sense. Use the privacy settings on social media to make sure that anyone that you don't authorize can't access your account, and that you're not allowing people to post things on your wall, whether it's pictures or whether it's a status update or what have you, that you have complete control of what goes on your social media account. At the very least, do that.
Now, there's a big difference between going dark and not posting as opposed to, doing stuff that's shifty that you shouldn't be posting. You never justify doing that.
Absolutely. But even if you're doing things that are completely justified, if you're, at a family occasion and you're having a beer, a particular photo, can be used to suggest something that just isn't so. I would rather not even have to make the argument that in the particular circumstances it doesn't mean what the insurance company is saying. It would be much better if that can be avoided altogether.
Yeah.
Obviously, if that is out there, there are many arguments that can be made. We all know social media doesn't give an accurate reflection of anybody's life, or not anybody I know. It's the best of. You're putting your best foot forward for the public, and people understand that now. This isn't news to anybody. It's been around for a long time. It's been a part of our lives. So people know that just because you're putting a happy face on your Facebook account doesn't mean that that is what you are like 24/7. It's usually not.
Email help@inyourcorner.ca. Guys, we'll get to one of these. Says Harold writes in, says, my brother had a brain tumor and was off on disability. He received short and long-term disability, but after the surgery, the insurance company stopped paying long-term disability benefits because their medical consultant said he should be better. His doctors say there is permanent damage and he's unable to work. Can we do anything about this?
Absolutely we can. And again, this is an extreme case. I mean, we don't have all the particulars. We haven't seen all of the records. But think about this. The insurance company has a medical consultant, whatever that means.
Are there air quotes around that?
Always.
Presumably there are, yeah. I mean, is this a medical doctor? Is it not? And by the way, even if it's a medical doctor, oftentimes insurance companies will utilize the wrong medical doctors to deal with specific issues which are not within their areas of expertise. And even if it's within their areas of expertise, I mean, this person just reviewed documents, hasn't assessed the individual. Here you have this person who had a brain tumor, and he has treating people, practitioners, an oncologist probably, a surgeon, etc., people who are going to provide opinions which carry so much more weight than this medical consultant that the insurance company has. And they have tons of those medical consultants, and their sole job is to feed the insurance company with opinions which form crutches for the insurance companies to then cut you off, which is essentially what happened here. So again, Harold is asking, can we do anything about this? Absolutely we can do something about this. We can challenge the insurance company. We can hold their feet to the fire. And the way we do it is by bringing a legal claim, because when we do that, the insurance company then at that point has a legal obligation to provide us their entire file. We get now to see all the communications between the adjuster and that medical consultant, all the notes of that medical consultant, all the notes of the adjuster. And I can tell you, just based on the fact scenario here, we're going to probably find some goodies in here. The insurance company is going to get embarrassed about this. So, kudos for Harold to Harold for actually, emailing us with this. And this is what we see a lot, John. We see family members, friends, colleagues, concerned individuals about, who contact us on behalf of people that they care about, because those individuals don't have the power themselves to contact us for help. And this is what we do day in and day out. And he did the right thing, and we're going to be able to help him.
We're almost done, guys, but James, it seems weird that, just based on what Sivan said, and you've made similar comments in previous shows, that they even try to do this with a consultant that's never seen you before.
It's just an effort to save money. They know if they don't at least get some sort of medical opinion that they have no basis to cut you off.
Wow.
If we get the file and they haven't at least taken even a cursory attempt at getting a medical opinion, they're in big trouble. But the reality is, when you drill down on it, a medical opinion from a medical consultant, not a doctor, is not going to be as valuable as one from a doctor. And a medical opinion from someone doing a paper review is not going to be as valuable as an opinion from someone who's actually seen and assessed the person. And that's not going to be as valuable as someone who has been treating you for years and years and understands your medical history in and out and knows what you're dealing with and knows what you're capable of doing and whether or not you're actually able to go back to work.
Guess I got to give it a shot.
Yeah.
They got to give it a shot. We're done for another week. You want to reach out and get a hold of James or Sivan, a member of the team, it is simple. 1-855-821-5900 is the number. Again, it was myterminationquestions.com. You can go there. There's also the email, help@inyourcorner.ca, and the website, inyourcorner.ca as well. Thank you for joining us this week and following weeks. If you haven't caught it, it was your first show. Come back. We'll do it again next weekend right here on In Your Corner.